Hi, I'm Leena Rao. Welcome to our Ask a VC show at TechCrunch TV, where we put VCs in the hot seat. We're here with Karim Faris, General Partner at Google Ventures. Welcome, Karim. I'm going to go into just a few of your investments and bio. You've led investments in ClearStory, Data, Expect Labs, Puppet Labs, Ignite, and Duo Security. You focus on a lot of enterprise as well as some e-commerce infrastructure as well at Google Ventures. And you previously worked in corporate M&A for Google, as well as was also a VC prior to that at Atlas Ventures, among other positions. That's a lot. A lot at Google. How long have you been at Google? Well, how long were you at Google, and how long have you been at Google Ventures?
At Ventures since inception. So we've been around for about 4 years as a fund. At Google, a year and a half prior to that in corporate M&A.
I'd love to hear a little bit about the Google Ventures Google relationship. Could you talk about that?
Sure. So we are separate from Google. We started this thing with a blank slate of paper on how you build a different kind of firm, and we architected a firm that was around the core, which is the entrepreneur. We are not a strategic arm of Google. We invest to build great companies and in the process make a financial return.
So you focus very much on the enterprise area. You've done security investments, infrastructure investments, data security investments. One area in the enterprise that I feel like is just really hot right now is security. And I'd love to hear your opinion on why that is.
So it's a great time to be an investor and an entrepreneur. There's tremendous trends on both cloud and security that we're playing into. And with that migration to cloud, more and more data is being out there in the cloud. There are security concerns. There's more vectors of attack that are exposed. And traditionally, enterprises spend money on different layers of security because no one layer is foolproof. That spawned a tremendous innovation in the security world. One area that's been a passion of mine is access control. So the world of passwords, for instance, is as an initial gate into the system, has been around for a long time. So if you want to try to secure the enterprise, the security has to start at the gate. One interesting stat I saw a few weeks ago is that north of 60% of people is estimated, according to a survey, to reuse passwords at least once. One of the biggest bang for the buck in security that I'm a fan of is two-factor authentication. So essentially, when you log in with a password, you want something that you know, which is a password, and combine it with something that you have, which is a token or a phone or anything like this. So there's lots of innovation in that space, and we're actually invested in a company called Duo Security in that space that allows you to leverage your cell phone as a second means to authenticate you into a system.
Are some of the things, the new areas like the cloud, kind of contributing to this issue where we're paying way more attention to security?
Yes. So security has always been an area of interest and focus. But yes, the movement to the cloud brings new requirements to securing data at rest up in the cloud, at the transport layer as well, and access. So there's more vectors that you can get through, and that results in more investments and more means to protect the enterprise and the end user.
I want to switch gears a little bit to mobile and the enterprise. Barbara, one of our readers, sent in a question. Where is enterprise software heading in mobile? Is the future in mobile for enterprise software?
Yeah, so there's the trend to bringing your own device to work. The workflows are moving from the desktop to the mobile world, and there's an expectation now for the new enterprise worker to be able to access information from wherever he is, whether it's on his own device or a device issued by the enterprise. So there's been lots of innovation of people trying to give two personalities to a device. You've got your personal device, and when you're at work, you switch into a mode that is turned into a device that the enterprise manages. We've got a company called Divide that plays into that trend. But convenience and accessibility is key when it comes to mobile consumption of enterprise information. So lots of activity in that space, and we've seen lots of very interesting entrepreneurs playing in it.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear your perspective on this now rise of enterprise, companies coming into the scene as, maybe consumer investing is curtailed a little bit, or people are more focused on revenue. You've been doing enterprise investing for quite some time now, so it's not like you're sort of following that trend. But what do you think of the trend? Is that something that's here to stay? Is enterprise finally coming into its own? More VC dollars are going into these companies. What are your thoughts?
So there's more VC dollars going. I think the trend has always been there. I think it's the media cycle that brings attention to one sector or another. But I think the trends have always been there on the enterprise side. If you look at valuations, certainly on the consumer side, you've seen lots more upward pressure on valuations than historically you've seen on the enterprise side. But fundamentally, the demand from IT departments are there. The budgets are getting better and better for spending in that space, which is driving success from the startups that we fund.
That's an interesting point. I mean, it's really all about, the CIOs and some of these people who have that discretionary funding on spending on cloud and security startups. Are you seeing more CIOs for some of the companies that you guys are investing in? Are you seeing more CIOs open to the idea of trying a startup instead of going to some of the, incumbent companies like Oracle and so on?
Yeah, definitely. I think the buyer is still the same buyer from a decade ago. So the process you have to go through is similar. But the openness, there's definitely more openness to looking at new technologies and new companies. As a matter of fact, lots of the larger companies have opened outposts in the Silicon Valley just to keep eyes and ears on the latest and greatest stuff that's coming in. The qualification period and the sales cycles are shortening a bit, but it's still the same buyer, and you have to prove your worth to the buyer and the value before anything happens. But the very exciting thing that's happening is when you make a product that's accessible and consumable. Like, one of the areas I'm excited about is bringing consumer discipline to user interfaces and usability to the enterprise world. And we have an in-house team that actually helps you do this at Google Ventures. If you make your product easier to use and more accessible, then you're going to have a lot of support with employees using the product. So by the time you go into the head of IT with a bottoms-down approach, you've got lots of groundswell to help you sell your product into the enterprise.
And that's a lot. You're talking about like kind of designing for the consumer. So isn't that sort of tied into the whole consumerization of the enterprise discussion and trend that's happening?
Yeah, I mean, it's making technology accessible. It's consumerizing. There's lots of ways to talk about it. But yeah, it's essentially reducing the barriers to interacting with a product. And while in the past couple of decades, how you consume the technology was secondary because you want to develop the core IP or technology. Now I think there's an opportunity to bring usability to the forefront and allow people to consume your technology much easier. That shortens sales cycles, that helps you sell into accounts from a grassroots perspective, and it's very, very compelling.
I want to touch on a reader question that we were sent. Elijah's question is, as a startup company, how do you best approach larger companies like Google for strategic relationships? And from the VC standpoint, are these relationships something that will count in their favor in the fundraising process?
I think it's always good to get initial proof points from a venture perspective. Like, if you're looking at a startup that already has established a relationship, whether it's a signed deal or a referenceable stakeholder that can speak on your behalf, is always compelling. So yes, that's absolutely something that is of value. For the first part of the question on how you approach them, when I was an entrepreneur, it was all about the messaging. These, very much like an IT buyer, if you're a product manager at a large company like a Google or Yahoo or an eBay, you've got lots of stuff on your plate. And the thing that I find most compelling is a three-bullet email saying, why should I matter to your business as a PM? It's very good to describe the technology and get passionate about what you do, but at the end of the day, when you've got 10 things on your list, you have to be very succinct on why does this matter to you in your day-to-day job.
Well, that's great advice for any entrepreneurs out there. And thank you so much, Karim, for joining us here in the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.